Warm when it's dark and cold emotionally. Hmm. This is a real skills workshop, which is here because we believe that there are things that we can do with mindfulness and consciousness and by sharing wisdom amongst each other that can bring warmth when it is dark and cold emotionally. And for those of us in the Northern Hemisphere, it was 28 degrees this morning.
Oh,
Yeah, it was. And I did not walk the trail naked. I, I, I both wore a hat that had been handmade for me, and that fact was not lost on me. And I did a bunch of other things too that helped my body and my soul warm up. And so I'm delighted to be here. I'm Rick from Thriving Now, and I'm here with Kathy Vartuli from Thriving Now and the Intimacy Dojo. Hi, Kathy.
hi, Rick. It's a pleasure to be here. And I love the fact that we're here as a group looking at things that a lot of people try to avoid. It's like cold and dark. Why would I look at it in the middle of winter? Like, why would I look at that? And yet, when we look at it, we start making things conscious that are just kind of otherwise floating around, and we can make better choices for ourselves. So, if you're here, can you just like acknowledge yourself that you made a choice? We have free will. You could be doing a lot of other things. You made the choice to be here and to look at these and ask yourself some questions and clear some energy, and that's a gift you're giving yourself and everyone around you. So if you would just, kind of pat yourself on the back, let yourself be, feel some appreciation because you're making choices I value very much. And I judge that that's a lovely way to spend an afternoon or early evening together. So thank you.
Um, I like this time of year, and I can feel the energetic change. Um,
Okay.
uh, was much warmer the other day, and I came across uh, probably sick on the same trail, same exact trail. Um, 6 dogs walking their humans. And the dogs were happy and the humans were happy. And there was an exchange of energy. And today it was just me out there, weirdly enough. Um, I Our first exploration here, not only just acknowledging that we appreciate and feel connected to you, those of us who are willing to do this and look at it, um, we we want to acknowledge that with with that awareness and that willingness can come sometimes a bit of a gosh, why don't I have this down already? Like I've been working on this for decades. Why do I sometimes feel cold and not always warm? Why do sometimes I feel uh, lonely amidst even a group of people? Um, are there times when, I just, I don't have what I crave. And what do I do with it? I don't feel warm. I feel a little dark. I feel cold. What do I do? And, um, we as a culture have often asserted that if you're down, if you're not happy, if you're not feeling joyful, that you should just, suck it up,
Pull
um,
yourself up.
pull yourself up. Um, and yeah, and as somebody who was raised as there were, I was raised as a man, to be a man, and that meant not crying. And it definitely meant that if you reached out, you might reach out to go for a beer with someone, but you didn't reach out for like, hey, um, dark clouds are coming through my brain and my heart feels just like shivery. Buddy, can you spare a what? A kind word? Can you remind me of something that I I did that you value? Can you tell me you'd miss me?
The comforting side of
I
it.
if
For
I
people who are
decided to
socialized,
swim to
yeah.
Africa, like would you miss me? And like I there's no part of that dialogue which any man that I'm aware of in my ancestry or in my world would have ever spoken to. And yet, what did they do? They drank, they smoked, they caroused, they did things that really violated what they may have also been teaching as part of their integrity. Um, you know, a man tells the truth, but I'm going to go off and do these other things that violate that. So we, my long-winded way of saying that I know within me, and I've been blessed to engage with lots of people across the diversity spectrum, that as humans we have these dark clouds that come through, just like in the mountains. In our soul, we can have really tough times, and if we can, as a community and as individuals, get to a place where we can say, I've got soul shivers. Yeah, yeah. What would you like? If we can get to that place where that's normalized and that's not something that we feel a lot of resistance and much less shame about having, well, then we're healing our ourselves and the people that we're connected to by getting past this as something that is a defect or a deficiency or a diminishment of what it means to be a powerful human.
Yeah. And I think if we even take it back earlier to our younger selves, like what everything you said is on target. When we're very little, it's impossible for little children, I think less than 3, to think of anything that's happening as not being about themselves. So it's just their brain development. They just think anything that happens is about them. So if we're little kids growing up in a family where our parents are maybe not very efficient or very good at taking care of us, or they're overwhelmed or they're having a bad day, if we feel a lack of comfort, if we feel alone and cold, if we feel like things are kind of dark, there's a sense that it's because of us. We can't, that's just how our brain works. There's no way we could overcome that. So there's often a sense of, I did something wrong. I am something wrong, that my parents weren't giving me this comfort, that I didn't get this comfort. And so these little kids, when they make decisions about this, like, this is something I deserve, there's something wrong with me. So when we feel the lack of comfort and warmth, there may be a kind of a freeze mechanism in our body, a collapse, like, this is just what happens. I have no way to overcome that, and a sense of shame. So even early, like when we're trying as an adult to comfort ourselves or take care of ourselves, we may be fighting that early trend of that freeze collapse. Like, I don't know how to comfort myself. I'm too little.
Mm,
And
yes.
the people around me that are supposed to take care of me aren't doing that. So it must be about me. And I'd love to
Yeah.
just do a little tapping on that if it's okay.
Yeah. So we use an emotional technology, a skill that we can all practice. It's called EFT tapping. We have a free course, thrivingnow.com/tapping. You can sign up for that. We're not going to be teaching tapping today, but if you'd like, just listen, tap along, and we repeat what the person what the person is offering, and you're free always to change it for yourself. Yeah.
Yep. We also have a book on Amazon if you like to hold a book. If you're one of I like to hold papers sometimes still. So I invite you to just take a nice deep breath and let yourself come here and now. Like, we've often had a lot of things going on. We had to create space to be here. So just invite yourself to kind of sink into your body. Notice that we have this circle of people that are really friendly and wanting to do the same thing. So if you can take a nice, gentle, deep breath, if that feels good to your body, let yourself feel your butt in your seat, your feet on the floor. If you can make yourself 5% more comfortable in whatever you're sitting in, just like, how
Hmm.
could you shift your body to care for yourself a little? How could you add a little comfort there? And we'll just start tapping. Karate chop. Even though part of me thinks I might deserve this cold, lonely feeling. Oh, you're muted, I think. I might hear you.
Me?
Oh, now I can hear you. Yep. I
Okay.
don't know what happened.
I thought you jumped right in. Uh, even though part of me thinks I might deserve this cold and lonely feeling,
And that makes me feel more ashamed
and that makes me feel more ashamed
and more cold and alone.
and more cold and isolated.
Yeah. What if it was never about anything I did wrong?
What if it was never about anything I did wrong?
Even though I have trouble believing that sometimes.
Even though I don't believe that sometimes.
I do know that my caregivers weren't always perfect.
Yeah, my caregivers were far from perfect.
They might have been doing their best,
They might have been doing their best.
but there are certainly gaps in the care.
There were certainly gaps in the care.
Top of the head. I send love back to my younger self.
I send love back to my younger self.
Eyebrow, that little me that was trying so hard to take care of themselves.
That little me that was trying so hard to take care of themselves.
Side of the eye, and who just didn't know how to self-comfort yet.
And did not know how to self-comfort yet.
Under the eye, it's physically impossible for little kids to self-comfort.
It's literally impossible for little kids to self-comfort.
Under the nose, and part of me froze.
Mm-hmm. Part of me froze.
Chin, part of me decided I didn't deserve more comfort.
Part of me felt I didn't deserve more comfort. There was no more comfort available.
Collarbone, part of me felt deeply ashamed that I wanted the comfort.
Part of me felt deeply ashamed that I needed comfort.
Under the arm. And as an adult, I'm realizing that humans do need comfort.
As an adult, I know that humans need comfort.
Top of the head, from themselves and from others.
From themselves and from others.
And I'm going to start practicing that.
And I'm going to continue practicing that.
And just take a nice breath and notice what's coming up. And it may feel like part of you may feel curious about this, and some of you may have feeling the shame getting a little more intense. Sometimes things will bubble up to the surface before they get cleared. There's nothing wrong. And it really is. This is scientific fact when they, when people used to teach put the kid there, let them cry, to learn to self-soothe when they're 6 months or a year. Literally, that kid could not do that. All that was happening is the kid was giving up, was going into collapse submit. And okay, mom and dad didn't have to listen to the kid cry anymore, but the kid was actually going into trauma. And we can clear those old traumas out by tapping and being as part of a group and healing this together.
Side of the hand. Even though I'm really aware of times in my past.
Even though I'm really aware of times in my past.
When I didn't get warmth.
When I didn't get warmth.
I didn't get comfort.
I didn't get comfort.
And the attention was cold and dark.
And the attention was cold and dark.
I'm here right now.
I'm here right now.
And there's love present.
And there's love present here.
There's compassion present here.
There's compassion present here.
There's shared experience present here.
There's shared experience present here.
Top of the head. I've had cold and dark experiences.
I have had cold and dark experiences.
Eyebrow. I'm aware of that.
I'm aware of that.
Side of the eye. And it's not all of who I am.
And it is not all of who I am.
Under the eye. I can bring warmth.
I can bring warmth.
Under the nose. I can bring warmth.
I can bring warmth.
Chin. I am bringing warmth.
I am bringing warmth.
Alone. And so is everyone else here.
And so is everyone else here.
Under the arm. We've shared cold, dark experiences.
We've shared cold, dark experiences.
Even if we were alone and isolated at the time.
Even if we were alone and isolated at the time.
I'm open to feeling my connection.
I'm open to feeling my connection.
And the warmth in each of us.
And the warmth in each of us.
least 98.6.
At least 98.6. So I invite you just to take a breath. I know for many, many years, I thought it was indulgent to want comfort. I was brought up in a family where you just pull, if you're crying, I'll give you something to cry about was one of my dad's favorite lines. You were supposed to just pull yourself up. If you were indulgent, that was a sign of weakness. And it was very hard for me to learn to comfort myself and to allow myself to be soft with myself. So I'd love to just do a tapping because I imagine if I have that experience, some of you have had that as well.
Yeah.
So karate chop, even though it's indulgent to tap or to comfort myself,
No, it's indulgent to comfort myself.
and I shouldn't bother with that.
I shouldn't bother with that.
What if that's a silly story from when I was younger?
What if that's a really silly story from when I was younger and in that book I read, in the movie I watched?
And from parents that didn't have a lot of comfort to spare.
Mm.
What if it's okay to comfort myself now?
What if it's okay to comfort myself now?
Top of that, I'm not sure it's okay to comfort myself.
Yeah. I'm not sure it's okay to comfort myself.
Shouldn't I be like the Spartans?
Shouldn't I be like the Spartans,
Saturday, sleeping outdoors and on the hard ground.
sleeping outdoors on the hard ground?
Under the eye, I don't really want to sleep on the hard
I
ground.
do not want to be that uncomfortable.
Under the nose, I really like my soft bed.
I really like my soft bed.
Chin. And when I do allow comfort, I have more to give. We lost your sound again, Rick. Lost your sound, Rick. Can I hear you right now?
We try that?
Yep, now I can hear you again.
Okay.
Collarbone. I can still take action when it's useful.
I can still take action when it's useful.
Under the arm. And sometimes that action is comfort.
And sometimes that action is actually comfort.
Top of the head. What if I let go of some of those old messages
What if I let go of some of those old messages
and help create comfort and love in my life?
and help create comfort and love in my life?
Just take a breath. Notice what's coming up with thoughts and images.
And if you're new to tapping, or just as a reminder too, so as we're tapping, sometimes you can feel that the statement is maybe too raw from where you are. There's a little bit of truth, but not a whole lot. And sometimes you'll say something that I might be saying very lighthearted because it's not a big deal for me. And for you, it's like, "Ugh." That's one of the reasons that we come together in these gatherings, is to allow each other to get clarity. So you'll notice I changed it when Kathy said, and I'm going to start, it felt warmer and more acknowledging to my my practice, to change that to, I'm going to continue to do this. So that's one of the things about tapping, is that you can say something, and in the gap, as you're pausing, maybe before you say it back, you'll notice I do that sometimes. As you feel like, where's the truth in this for me as a kinesthetic experience, not just like, what do I think about that statement? Allowing your body to guide this as well. Yeah. So, is there anything that you wanted to?
Well, people are sharing that the self comfort is something that they really struggled with, and I appreciate you sharing. One person said that they're in their 70s and just learning in the last couple of years. Thank God you found it. Um, we always wish we'd found something sooner. Like I wish I had EFT back before it existed because it would have made my life so different. And I still love the fact we can find it wherever we are, we can take action because that means we've changed the trajectory of our life and we get to live whatever years, decades left of our lives, like what you're learning right now is going to change your life right for the rest of your life. There'll be residuals of this that will be in your system that will help you move forward and change that. And if we're bad at soul soothing, it's a sign probably that we weren't taught. It wasn't modeled. I watch Rick and Jem with Adira. She's 2, and they teach her. They're like, "Honey, it's okay to be sad. Are you feeling sad? Oh, you're in that pose. Does that feel comforting?" I see them talk to her, and sometimes they will distract her. That's fine. We can sometimes distract her.
Distraction is comforting
Sometimes we don't want to distract the
sometimes.
boys. Yeah.
Right. But like crunchy, sweet, if we look at all the ways that we comfort, some people find something that their psyche allows. They might not feel good about it, wholeheartedly good about it, but there's something that's like, oh, there's something coming up for me. Not even like they get the feeling about it, and they'll have a comfort. And we hold a lot of shame or judgment toward the person who watches, you know, 37 episodes of a show on Netflix in a row. Okay.
I've done that. With a long weekend, binge watch.
Well, there's a difference between, to me, being excited and in it, and the
Distracting yourself.
just the so our second point here is looking at whether we confront or comfort, and maybe we do both, and we do it in a different sequence. Part of this is if you do something that brings you warmth. um, I feel blessed that you have found something that does that. um, I wish I could have had a conversation with my dad that was like, when you get home, or when you're driving in the car leaving work and you're sucking down the beers, I know that that's providing comfort to you because I can feel that what you need is something, and you found something that gave you a little bit. And um, one of the other things that would give him comfort is like grabbing me by the leg and roughhousing with me a little bit in the car in a way that I did not enjoy at all, but I could tell it really gave him um, something that he needed. If we get to a place like, oh, where am I right now? Well, it's dark and cold. And which feels better for me right first, comfort or to be with? Confront. Confront says, I've got these feelings. Can I be with it for 7 seconds, 30 seconds? Can I acknowledge that that's where I am? And that's one of the things that tapping did for me. Um, because of the way that this technique and this technology is structured, you can find yourself saying, I have no friends. I have no friends. I have no friends. I have no friends. That was what, 4 seconds, right? Now, what I'm actually saying is I feel isolated and disconnected from people who matter to me. That's the shortcut version of it. My thought of I have no friends, I have no friends, I have no friends, I have no friends, that used to be like something inside me. I had family. The next birthday party I had, there were 90 people there. Like, but when we acknowledge, and like that's what we mean by confront, is like, what am I feeling? Oh, this dark cold is I have no friends. What is that actually? Oh, I feel disconnected. Part of the skill here that we're inviting is to take something that feels kind of habitual or dark and cold, and it feels like you're not making movement on it. And we've normalized, we said, well, I feel ashamed about it. It stops me, you know, oh, it's connected to my past patterns of how I had to cope and maladapt rather than be in warmth and connection. How does that show up for me? Well, even to this day, it's much quieter. But 20 years later, after I really used tapping around this mantra of mine of I have no friends, um, And it was never true, but it felt like true.
Yeah.
When it comes up, what is it saying to me? It is saying, it is really time for connection to people that matter. And by confronting it there, it's great. Now, I'm remembering like getting in my car and feeling teary, that kind of cold, um, and that I have no friends was coming to me. And walking now in nature has become a comfort, okay, not a confrontation. And so as I went out and walked in nature, um, I was looking for comfort. So what did I do? Well, as soon as my body's blood, got pumping a little bit more, I actively would look for things that were pleasing to me, simple uplifts, things that were warming. And you can do this when it's really cold out. There is probably, and again, I was someone that could have walked from A to B and not noticed 2,000 different works of natural art. And now, this morning, I walked around a corner and there's this beautiful dead tree. Like it, it was this color and it had been eaten and it was still standing. There was still and there was something on today that was really warming to me about life and death and resilience and value and what we leave behind and what can be appreciated. And I didn't have to search for it too much because I was tuned to what am I noticing that is comforting to me. And it can be weird. It can be like that dead leaf, you know, that bit of lichen, um, the water coming out of the drainage tube from the draining from the Blue Ridge Parkway. Um, it was sparkling. Wow. Now, when I do things like that, I'm bringing active warmth, even though I didn't meet, there were no dogs, there were no people.
Yeah.
I'm looking for comfort. So
Yeah. I think there's a
definitely use.
clearing we can do around our blocks. And one of the things I found more recently was I cleared a lot of the voices in my head that were very loud, the very judgmental, shameful voices. I'd had those for years, like, you're a piece of shit, no one's going to love you. Like, I cleared those out, but I'd still find myself slumping sometimes. And when someone I'm working with had this insight, he's like, I think you're getting things just below the level of consciousness. I think you're having some thoughts and patterns. And I started doing more meditation and slowing down and noticing. I'm like, oh, this is reminding me of a time like the holidays. We grew up very poor, so we were very cold. Often the house is very cold, and people were struggling for money, so the holidays could bring up a lot of stress. So there could be things that are triggering memories of it or
Yeah.
thought patterns that are just below the consciousness, or they may be in the conscious level. So when we choose to confront things, it doesn't mean we have to go face first into it. We can ask for help. We can wrap ourselves in a warm blanket while we do it. We don't have to do either or necessarily. But sometimes we'll use comfort as I've certainly done it where I'm like hiding from something. And I can tell in my soul, it's like, you're just hiding and comforting yourself. And you really want to face this. And I sometimes indulge for a little while and then I come out of it. But when we start clearing those old traumas, we start clearing those old messages, it's like, oh, we can take action faster. We can find ways to comfort ourselves better. When we're stuck in freeze or collapse submit, it's very hard to see options. It's like nobody loves me, no one's gonna be there for me. Oh, well, why don't I Zoom with someone? Why don't I make a phone call? Why don't I find a pet? One way that people that are healthy and know how to take care of themselves, we can also turn to memories of times where we felt connected. We can remember, like, last night when I got to Zoom with a deer, I got to see her. She was cooking. She has some lovely toys that I wish I'd had when I was little. She made soup. She fed it to the video camera from me. Like, I can remember that time that I felt connected and use that as a way to kind of comfort myself. So we have more options available for comforting. And I really think wisdom is knowing how far to confront versus how much to comfort. What are my resources right now? How raw is this? And we don't always get it right. I certainly felt this often where like, oh, that was a little too intense. I am completely worn out right now. Or well, I didn't really quite push myself as hard as I could have. I would have loved to, use some of the energy I had. We don't have to get it perfect, but we keep learning. If we're conscious and we notice it, we start learning and learning and we direct ourselves and our paths better. And we're like, oh, I'm really depleted now. I'm recognizing that feeling. I'm going to gently close down the confronting and clearing out stuff. And I'm going to go more into the comfort and asking people to kind of be there for me. Does that make sense to folks? Like finding that balance it's constantly evolving. We get stronger as we go, but also there's times when big stuff comes up. I think our systems really know what we're capable of. So when we're first starting out, the things that burble to the top are not going to be as big as like when we're months or years down the road and we've built up a lot of muscles. Our system knows like, oh, you can handle this now. I'm going to give you the bigger piece of cement that you need to clear out. So it's a constant learning and growing. And I think when we're dancing with ourselves and being mindful and adjusting as we go, we can dance much more gracefully. We can find a better balance. We can take care of ourselves so much more profoundly. And I just think that's a lovely gift to give ourselves. And we kind of notice, oh, I think I did a little too much. I need to adjust a little bit down. Or I think I could have looked a little bit harder at that. I think that there's a little more energy there that would love to clear. So just kind of dancing with ourselves in that, if that makes sense.
Mhm. The chat is open for questions, and if you're watching the replay, we do look at replies and comments and
I
are
put in that
very
chat.
open. Go
There's a
ahead.
book I'm reading right now, Adult Children of Immature Parents. And I have highlighted over half the dang book and I send it, my sister's reading it as well now. It's really powerful for me because it talks about, I imagine everyone here has at least some time when or someone around them that was immature because we hear people talking about comforting their parents or taking care of things. Um, and we're pretty much thoughtful people that want to grow. So it's if you had parents that weren't there for you as much as you would have liked, or you suspect there might be something there, it's an easy read, but there's a lot of, I keep going, oh, it's, and he talks about how, if we're around immature, our parents were immature, or one or both of them, we can often feel alone. We're not seen. And like children need to be seen and witnessed. And if we're not really seen at the level we want to be seen, there's a sense of isolation and loneliness that we carry. And there's a sense of there's something wrong with me
Yeah.
because I feel this, and we carry it forward in our life, feeling like I just don't quite fit with people versus, oh, my parents were just not able to see me as I needed to be seen, and now I can find people that are able to. So I'm really loving the book. I thought I'd share that because it kind of fits with this.
Uh,
Can we do some tapping on comfort versus confrontation?
yeah. Would you like to lead or would you like me to?
Or are you feeling drawn to, or would you? I'm glad to, but I'm also glad.
I asked an open-ended either
Okay,
way.
yeah, karate chop. Even though it's sometimes hard to decide whether to comfort myself or confront these old issues,
Even though at times it's hard to decide whether to comfort myself or confront these old issues,
maybe I can do both.
maybe I can do both.
I can wrap myself in a warm blanket,
Wrap myself in a warm blanket,
get some nice warm tea,
get some nice warm tea,
maybe even light a candle.
uh, maybe even light a candle.
And then I can see what my soul wants tending.
And then I can see what in my soul wants tending.
Top of the head.
I like that word, tending.
Top of the head. Part of me wants to run away and just comfort myself.
Part of me wants to run away and just comfort myself.
Eyebrow, and that's okay sometimes.
And that's okay sometimes.
Side of the eye. And sometimes it's good to clear out some of these old beliefs.
Sometimes it's good to be with some of these old beliefs.
Under the eye, to create an easier path as I move forward.
Create an easier path as I move forward.
Under the nose, I can just try a little bit of both.
I can try a little bit of both
Shen, and notice what feels best to my soul in this moment.
and notice what feels best to my soul in this moment.
Collarbone, I don't have to decide forever and ever I'm in.
Oh, I do not have to decide forever and ever I'm in.
I'm in the M just for the next 5 minutes.
Just for the next 5 minutes
Top of the
or
head.
50
Or 50 seconds.
or 50 seconds.
Yeah. I get to adjust what I'm giving my body,
I get to adjust what I'm giving my body
and I get to dance with my being.
and I get to dance with my being.
Just take a breath and see if that lands for you. If you have resistance, again, I was brought up in a family where you just push through. If you're in pain, just push harder, like get her done. And so it's sometimes really hard for me to be gentle with myself. And there are times when that's the most challenging thing I can do is to be soft and gentle. And those muscles to be soft and gentle with myself are not as well developed as some of the others. So again, notice what would be challenging in a good way for you. Is it to practice being just a little bit like I call it indulgent when I'm in my negative voice, like you're just indulging yourself. Get out of bed and get stuff done. I can hear my parents' voices. And sometimes it's like, no, I need to just acknowledge those voices are there and turn, say like, I don't have to listen to you right now. And I'm going to curl up in bed for an extra half hour or whatever it is that my system is needing. So sometimes being indulgent can be really challenging to our system. And sometimes it's like, okay, there is something there that I'd love to clear. So I don't have to have this keep coming up and kind of biting me in the butt all the time.
Hmm. I, I, I get the image of, the yin yang, the balance of approaches. I sometimes work with clients who've been working on themselves with a lot of yang. They go after it, after. And that's great. That can be a superpower, to be able to have that kind of courage and drive. Um, if that's your nature, I'm going to suggest that when you need some warmth, that you look at what might be yin nourishing. Like, you know, I've been tapping for 3 hours. What,
Little
what?
black and blue marks. I should stop.
Yeah, yeah. I've got calluses on the pads of my fingers from the last 3 months. I wonder, I wonder what my belly would find warming. What would be soft if I go after things hard? If I'm willing and able to do the hard things, am I willing and able to do the soft things? So, for example, someone wrote, um, I found a number of people who see me, and yet I have a hard time believing or feeling it. Now, I know this person's courage, their capacity to continue to be with what comes up, even really hard things. And I know that, I love Kathy and Kathy's capacity to be courageous and go after it and things. Um, I feel good about the fact that, I started inviting her to like what would be soft for you. Um, Things like lighting candles and really dropping in. This was a long time ago, and now she teaches and reminds me of the same thing. We support and help each other. Um, we need yang in the world, and we need people that are very powerfully yin with their capacity to be responsive and to hold space and to be create containers for energy and experience and all of these things. But as you're looking at warmth, if your tendency is to be like withdrawn and very like not movement, one of the things I like about tapping is that it's got some movement to it. For me, my tendency when I get cold and dark is to become sedentary isn't quite the word, that's sort of the physicalness of it. My chi, if you were to look at it, would be um, heavier,
Mhm.
right? I would tend to heavy myself into um, uh, a space, an energy space. So for me, a balancing, replenishing is something that's more physical, which is why my morning mile, even if it happens at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, that's something that's very balancing for me. I know people that run miles a day, that they haven't had a day where they've walked less than 10,000 steps, even when they had just gotten out of surgery. You know, that's the level of push. And the warmth, though, if we're pushing to the place where we start feeling cold,
Mhm.
that's a bit like the athlete who's pushing, 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 and the energy starts being withdrawn from their limbs, their extremities, and something that would be warming, a pause, a powerful pause, could be really helpful. Pause and comfort. Um, Food is comfort. Activities can be comfort. Warm blanket can be comfort. Holding your heart, feeling for your core, your even
For how
feeling like my hands are a little cold. My room's a little cold here. And I'm going to turn up the heat here when we take a break. But the feeling like my fingers are colder than the side of my neck. So feeling for areas of you that have physical warmth, hardiness, some energy moving or radiating. Um, these can be profoundly reconnecting. And I think we'll get into some of the getting help on our with do it on our own or get help and do some tapping on that after our break. Is there anything that you want to set this tone for our little?
I would love, just because I think it's up, if it's okay, I'd just like to do a quick tapping on if we push too far, like the forgiveness for ourselves, because sometimes we can make it worse, and someone shared that in the chat. So
Sure.
if it's okay, karate chop. Even though I pushed too far,
Even though I pushed too far,
and I might have made myself worse,
and I might have made myself worse.
I'm so frustrated with myself.
So frustrated with myself.
I might someday be able to forgive myself.
I might someday be able to forgive and understand myself,
Even though I pushed too hard,
even though I pushed too hard.
I really want to be better.
I really wanted to be better,
And I went too far,
and I went too far,
and I set myself back.
and I set myself back.
Maybe I can be okay with that anyway.
Maybe I can be okay and allow myself to recover anyway.
Top of the head, I'm not so sure.
I'm not so sure.
Eyebrow, I'm pretty mad at myself.
I'm pretty mad at myself.
Side of the eye, I set myself back.
I set myself back
Under the eye, when I meant to go forward.
when I meant to go forward.
Under the nose, and I did the best I knew how.
And I did the best I know how.
Chin, maybe I can forgive myself.
Maybe I can forgive myself
Collarbone, and use this as a learning experience.
and use this as a learning experience.
Under the arm, I might need to take more pauses as I move ahead.
I may want to take more pauses as I move ahead
Top of the head, or get some support to help me see things more realistically.
or get some support. Help me see things more realistically.
And just take a breath. And notice that we all do this. I did this back in September. I was feeling really good. I pushed myself too hard walking. My knee has hurt since then. And think I've made some progress, but it's like, oh, every time my knee hurts, there's a little bit of like, if I hadn't pushed that, I might have been fine. And I did the best I knew how at that moment. So if when we're stuck in the self recrimination, it's really hard to take wisdom out of the experience. But if we can do some tapping and some clearing, then we're like, oh, I've noticed that I get really excited when I'm making good progress. And that's the time I need to say, hey, Rick, do you think it'd be a good idea to double my exercise today? And he can say, no, Kathy, I don't think that's a good idea. Um, so, we can take wisdom out of it a lot more, and we can allow ourselves to move forward better when we've done some forgiveness, and we can Oh, I was really doing my best. I was excited. I was really happy that things were happening. So, if someone offered to support me, yeah, I think we all need some realistic someone to say, wow, you're making good progress, but maybe you don't have to push yourself exponentially today. Like, can you pause and celebrate the gain that you made and see how your body responds to that little increase versus like doubling something?
Well, and you use the term celebrate, like celebrate as it can mean something to different people, but in me, celebration is a yang experience, right? We're celebrating a birthday, we're celebrating a win, we're celebrating. And uh, to balance out my nature, if I'm pushing, if I'm doing something, uh, if I complete something, savoring. So like we're talking about warmth more than heat, like generating power and heat. Today's is about like, okay, when it's dark and cold, what do I do? Um, well, we can generate warmth. You can get dark and cold and driving yourself through the snowstorm, right? And that's kind of your metaphor for where you are. And what would benefit would be coming into a nice warm place, maybe having some hot cocoa and a sauna with friends, and just savoring where you were and where you are now. um, so that's I I find I'm speaking to myself, which is why I'm a little awkward sometimes in this because um, if I if I push to get the kitchen clean and I don't pause and savor. So I made the family breakfast. Mom was getting some very needed sleep. We had the three of us, Emerald and Adira and I. We had a sweet time. Um, if I didn't stop to savor breakfast and the feeling after breakfast, if I had just gone back to the doing part of it, it there was a part of me that wanted to just get everything cleaned up and cook the potatoes, blah 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 blah. I started to feel cold, like my body started to feel cold. I didn't feel warm. And this is part of body guidance. It's a little advanced, but if you notice, like, do I have oomph for this? Do I have energy? Do I have vitality and chi for this? If I don't, it may, what am I? Okay, so I don't have the energy. What is it? Oh, I was pushing or wanting to push. Okay, so the the opposing force or the yin balance, the balancing is savor, comfort, savor, be with, tune to things that are warming to your soul. Oh, well, I I was feeling cold because I was just kind of like just scrolling social media and I'm feeling really like cold and ah, what's the balancing? Some movement. Oh, I'm going to put on some music and I'm going to spend 3 minutes and decorate or clean up or something like that. Um, this is energy is meant to find a not a static balance of like happy, warm and happy all the time. Mm, that would be like saying your heartbeat's going to always be 72 beats a minute. No, sometimes 172 beats a minute might be perfect for what you're doing.
Running after a deer down the hallway.
Yeah, or like really chilling and you just like boom, 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 boom. This is the emotional freedom, uh, allows for more range and savvy within the range. It's cold and dark. What is that for me? Oh, I'm wanting more chi. I'm running too much chi. My body's like, I comfort myself. I'm confronting my laziness. Like my energy system has decided that today I'd rather not go for a walk outside. Okay. Do I need movement? Yes. And then you come up with something else that gives you a variety of the chi nourishment, warming that your being needs. We don't do well when our chi drops below a certain point. That's the cold dark. It starts hitting places that are familiar in that they're part of our makeup. They were part of our raising, and maybe even part of our incubation inside of our mother. They were part of the culture that we've been in and are in. When our when our chi drops below a certain point, in that cold dark, what are you going to find? It's going to be what's in your crawl space. Um, and in that place, we, I, I, I'm, I'm so blessed to have people like Kathy and you all. There's so many familiar faces and some new ones in my life because it's an opportunity for me to connect to what matters to people like us, people that you know, been there, done that. We'll do it again. How can we bring a little more savvy, a little more skill, compassion, comfort to that?
Yeah,
So,
and I think we're gonna take a break, but we're gonna come back and talk about we're trying to brighten the darkness. Do we do it with our own candle or other people have other people help? So, and if someone wants to do some tapping with us, we're glad for you to raise your hand and bring you forward. So,
mhm.
all
All
right,
right. We'll be back in,
7 minutes.
yeah, 7 minutes. Welcome back. And if you're watching this on the recording and you didn't take a break right then, I invite you to do so. Um, so, my daughter Adira, which you all know through the newsletter, um, they were just heading out to go caroling in the neighborhood, and it's cold out. And mom was wanting to get her into her snowsuit, which is beautiful and red and comfortable, and she was not having it. And got her in the suit. And now that she knows how to zip and unzip, she would get zipped up and then start zipping it down, and then zipped up and start zipping it down. And it wasn't until mom actually took her by the hand and said, "Hey, let's go out and see how cold it is outside." And she's like, "Ooh." And then she zipped it up and standing there on the front steps saying, "Hi, hi." That's her favorite word. Bye, bye. Um, So, like, we were talking about resistance to warmth, even from well-meaning people, I think that's a good lead in to, it's she's 2 years old and she resists even well-meaning warming up. Um, she's definitely been known to push my hand away when I give her a comforting hand on the back when she's upset. Um, and I'm totally okay with that, even though it sometimes, there's a jolt to my nervous system. Um, from the earliest ages, we get this notion in our being about what's right for us and what isn't, and that can be um, hard to navigate later on. And so, um, part of emotional freedom is for me, like, okay, if I have a knee jerk reaction, if I have a knee jerk negative reaction to someone offering to help me with something. So if I know myself and I'm out raking leaves and some guy comes along and says, "Hey, would you like some help?" And my knee jerk reaction is, "No, I'm good." That's my knee jerk reaction. That's not an actual answer about whether it would be not only helpful, but actually maybe warm my heart to have somebody else helping me tend to something. Um, so noticing your knee jerk reactions could be a knee jerk reaction like, "Oh, I need to get somebody else. I need to talk. What I need to do is talk to somebody else." Um, there's for a while I had a knee jerk reaction that what I needed to do was journal. So, um, whatever and that can be good for us. It can be good for to be able to wipe your own butt. It can also be good to be able to, break your own leaves. But if it's your knee jerk reaction, I don't want to start off with, like, my daughter's knee-jerk reaction is that if she starts feeling like she's being forced to do something that isn't what she wants to be doing, her knee-jerk reaction is to say no to it and to fight it, not all the time. But I think that's really good. That's an impulse. Like I don't want her to be forcible easily. I'm not looking
Good
for
boundaries.
not looking for just compliance for the sake of it. Um, and it's information for the skill part of this workshop. Like, as we enter this exploration of, do I light my own candle, or do I get help? We share. Kathy, you had some things you wanted to touch on there.
Um, well, I think that there are times when, so if we're feeling like it's dark, we can bring our own light inside. We can like turn up our own energy. And there's times when I have that to do. And there's times when it feels like I'm dredging the bottom of the barrel and trying to turn up that light is like, I just don't have any fuel. And humans are social creatures. I was really brought up that you're supposed to be self sustaining, you're supposed to be able to spark your own fire, all that. And it really can be helpful to know there's times when I can kind of turn it up, Rick's not available. I can use memories of times when I'm connected. I can reach out for different people, but there's really something incredibly sweet reaching out to someone that's known and trusted and asking for a little support. I think if we notice that we have resistance to allowing that in, that's a great thing to confront, to kind of like, why am I not letting this in? When did I learn that it's not safe to let this in? And having compassion for ourselves, because we may have learned it that, for instance, my mother can be very generous, but often there's gotcha at the end. Like if you accept what she gave you, then there's a suddenly like you owe her something. So my sisters and I tend to be leery if someone is generous and kind to us because we grew up in an environment where you accepted this thing you wanted and then you found out you owed her for the
It
rest of your
wasn't
life.
generosity, it was
So look,
borrowing from the mafia.
yeah, exactly. Yes.
The mama mafia.
So 10 years later, do you remember that thing I did for you? You're like, oh,
You
why
owe
did
me a
I say
favor.
that?
I'm your mother. You owe me a favor.
Yeah. So it was when Rick first, we were working together and he was so generous and kind. It was kind of like there was this leeriness, like, well, what does he want? And then I think it's okay to take baby steps with people. We don't have to like jump in and say, give me everything. We're like, oh, well, let me accept this little bit of kindness and see how it goes. How does it feel to my digestive system and how do they act afterwards? Um, but as we go forward, it can be really beautiful to say, hey, you know what? My candle needs a boost. Either I need another kit. If you've ever seen, like if you put a match near a flame that's kind of struggling, that flame can get bigger. Like the warmth, it can help combustion.
Yeah.
Or sometimes I'm like, honey, I just need someone to spark that. Like I'm out. My candle's cold. Can I borrow some
My wick got cut off.
yeah.
I need
Can I have
some
some
digging.
fire from you?
Some melting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we get to decide, just like with the other, where we're like, am I doing this solo? Am I doing it? Am I asking for someone to do it? Or are we collaborating on this? And humans are social animals. We do get comfort from support from other people. And that actually helps us get ahead of some of the more primitive animals. Don't know how to comfort. They're reactive to their environment. They don't know how to comfort as a group. And as animals started forming herds and collectives, that's when they started to be more successful, when they could they could soothe as a group, they could comfort and protect as a group. And humans have that ability when we have healthy upbringing and we have good coping skills around us. That's one of our best skills. We can say, oh, okay, we can comfort each other, we can heal old things together. So knowing how to find that balance, I know that there's times when I'm too much on my like I'm going to do it all myself and I feel kind of depleted, or there's times I'm leaning too much on friends and I can feel almost like I've had too much rich food. It's kind of the energy of like I've had a lot of support. I think I need to flex my own muscles a little more. So everybody's body may tell you that in different ways, but when we're quiet and calm with these sensations, they start picking up the signals a lot more subtly. We don't have to wait till we have major indigestion because we've asked for way too much rich food. We can go, oh, I think I'm going to stop there. That last bite was a lot, and I feel good about moving on to something else. So as we follow this dance, like, how do we bring brightness to our darkness? What I was having a kind of a down morning today and talked to Rick a little bit. Adira was not available for pick me up. She's the best antidepressant ever, but she was not available. And I was watching just a silly show on TV that was I felt much lighter. It was this kid overcoming like the popular kids and forming her own thing and making new friends. And I was like, oh, this is perfect. So how do we want to brighten up our space? What will feel good to us?
So Phil, it would, anyone want to share on the chat some things that you do when you're feeling um, like you'd like to lighten things up for yourself?
Yeah.
What are
We
some
had someone.
ideas?
Okay. Um, we had someone who private messaged me that would like to step forward. I think.
Okay. Rewatching Gilmore Girls.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That kind of
Something
interplay and
familiar and
dynamic.
really, really powerful. Um, all right. So, if the person that messaged me about volunteering is not quite on this, I don't deserve comfort, but I'd love to do a little tapping. It's very much in the topic of this. Is that okay? If we,
Yeah. Go ahead.
yeah,
All yours.
and if you're a yes, the person that messaged me can go ahead and unmute. Um, I don't know if you want to use a nickname, or if you want to use your. Um,
I'll just be my real name.
okay. Hey, Margot, how are you?
Hi, Kathy.
I love that you want to step forward for this. So you were talking earlier about how it's hard for your younger self it's hard to be nice to your younger self. It feels foreign to have comfort. Is that still what feels most awake for you?
Yeah, I'll be trying to be nice to my younger self, and then I'll just push her off a cliff.
Okay, great. I love that you have that awareness.
Not that I would actually do that to someone's child, but it's like, I just can't deal with this. Just go away out of my sight because I don't know what to do with you.
Okay. And was that something you had role modeled when you were little?
Being pushed off a cliff?
Well, just like go away, I can't deal with you kind of thing.
No, it was just like, because there was just, to me, it's just this huge blank spot. Like somebody being kind to me or even talking to me, it's like, it doesn't really exist for me. So trying to do that when I never had that modeled in any way is just like, I don't even know where to start.
Yeah. So let's just try some tapping, and feel free to modify it as you like. Okay. We'll check in. Karate chop. Even though it feels so uncomfortable to comfort myself.
Not feel so foreign to comfort myself.
I'd really like to learn this skill.
I really like to learn the skill,
even though I have very little experience with this.
even though I still feel like I might not deserve it and I have no experience with it.
And it feels so uncomfortable to comfort myself.
Feels really just weird to comfort myself.
I'm not sure how to move forward.
I really feel stuck here.
Yeah. Top of that, I feel really stuck.
I feel really stuck.
Eyebrow. And I like that I'm aware that I'm stuck.
I like that I'm aware I'm stuck.
Side of the eye, but it's not fun being stuck.
It's not fun being stuck though.
Under the eye, I don't think I deserve comfort.
I don't think I consciously know I deserve comfort, but I don't feel that I do.
Under the nose, part of me is resisting.
Part of me is resisting.
Chin. Intellectually, I know I deserve comfort.
Intellectually, I know I deserve comfort.
Collarbone, but my subconscious is like, no, no, no.
But it's really a body no for me.
Yeah. Under the arm. And I honor that I have this much self-awareness.
I honor that I've worked my butt off so that I have this much self-awareness.
Top of the head. Hey, subconscious.
Hey, subconscious.
Eyebrow. I know this is really new.
I know this is really new.
Side of the eye. And we didn't get a lot of this when we were little.
We didn't get any that I can remember when we were little.
Under the eye. So we're building from scratch.
And we're starting from scratch.
Under the nose. It's okay to take baby steps here.
It's okay to take baby steps here.
Chin. And just because it's uncomfortable,
And just because it's not comfortable,
Collarbone and feels really foreign.
feels really foreign.
And that doesn't mean it's bad for us.
Doesn't mean it's bad for us.
Top of that, part of me thinks it's bad for us.
Part of me thinks it's, I don't know, not bad, just, there's just confusion.
Yeah. Eyebrow feel really confused.
Feel really confused.
Side of the eye, and confusion is the first step towards wisdom.
Confusion is the first step towards wisdom.
Under the eye, I'm going to be so wise.
I'm so confused, I must be really wise soon, or at some point.
Under the nose, what if it's okay to feel confused?
But if it's okay to feel confused and draw a blank,
Yeah. Chin, I can just practice baby steps with this.
you can practice really small baby steps.
Collarbone, and I have some resistance to practicing these baby steps.
Oh, hell, I have resistance to practicing these baby steps.
Where in your body do you feel the resistance?
I just kind of feel, I guess, my solar plexus. Yeah.
Under the arm, I don't know who I'd be if I actually took care of myself.
I don't know who I'd be if I actually took care of myself.
Top of the head, emotional comfort is self-care.
Emotional comfort is self-care.
Eyebrow, but it's a foreign language to me.
But it's foreign language and I'm angry that I have to learn to speak it by myself.
Side of the eye, I do have to learn it for myself.
I have to learn it for myself.
Under the eye, but maybe I don't have to learn it by myself.
I don't have to learn it by myself.
Under the nose, there's a bunch of us here all practicing this.
A bunch of us here all practicing this, and I hope somebody knows what I'm talking about besides me.
Chin, this feels very foreign.
Feels really awful and foreign.
Collarbone, and tying my shoes felt really foreign probably when I was 5.
Tying my shoes used to feel really foreign too.
Under the arm, now it's pretty normal.
Yeah, it's pretty, now I wear slip-ons.
But I still know how to tie my shoes.
And I still know how to tie my shoes.
It might be okay to take baby steps here.
It'd be okay to take baby steps.
And just take a breath and notice what's coming up for you.
I just feel kind of sick. Like,
Okay. Where do you, in your stomach?
or it's like more like dread, I guess. Because I don't have that sick in the stomach feeling. It's higher up, like just been punched.
Okay.
And I won't say I'm hyperventilating, but a little.
Karate chop, even though I'm having a strong reaction,
And I'm having a really strong reaction.
part of me is scared.
Part of me is scared.
And it feels kind of fake to try to do this stuff.
Feels fake to try to do this stuff.
Maybe I'm okay anyway.
Maybe I'm okay.
Top of that, I feel sick to my stomach.
Feel sick to my stomach.
I'm breathing fast.
I'm breathing fast.
Side of the eye, my body is reacting as if I'm in danger.
My body's reacting as if I'm in danger.
Under the eye, there might be something a little more deep here.
How dare I ask for comfort?
Yeah. Under the nose, how dare I ask for comfort?
Dare I ask for comfort?
Chin, my survival brain is afraid of asking for comfort.
My survival brain knows better than to ask for comfort.
Collarbone, I don't dare ask for comfort.
I don't dare ask for comfort.
Under the arm, I didn't dare ask for comfort.
I didn't dare ask for comfort.
Top of the head, what if I'm allowed to have comfort now as an adult?
But if I'm allowed to have comfort now as an adult, then I did deserve it as a child too.
Yeah. Just take a breath and notice, see if you can. You may not be able to, but I just want to invite you to try, because sometimes the trying is part of building the muscles. Imagine a split screen where you have your adult self on one side that knows it's probably okay to have comfort, and this child that didn't dare ask for it. See if you can be present with both of them at the same time. And just breathe into that. What are you noticing in your body?
It's that same kind of feeling in my solar plexus, like she's just confused.
Okay. Karate chub, I'm sending love to that confused part of me.
I'm sending love to that confused part of me.
This is really hard.
It's extremely hard.
And it might be core to changing some of the things I want to change.
Might be core to changing want, it's core to changing some of the things I want to change.
Top of the head, my survival brain thinks it's dangerous to have comfort.
My survival brain thinks it's dangerous to want comfort.
Eyebrow, and it probably was at one point.
I'm quite sure it was at one point.
Side of the eye, I learned this lesson very well.
You learned this lesson very well.
Under the eye, and it might be okay to unlearn it now.
I know it's okay to unlearn it now.
Under the nose, survival brain, thank you for keeping me safe all that time.
Survival brain, thank you for keeping me safe all that time.
Chin, we're in a very different condition now.
We're in a whole different planet now.
Yeah. Collarbone, I'd love to practice comfort with you.
I'd love to practice comfort with you.
Under the arm, and we only have to do it for 10 seconds at a time.
You only have to do it for 2 seconds at a time.
Okay. Top of the head, and then we'll take plenty of breaks.
We'll take lots of breaks, like 3 hours in between each 2 seconds.
Just take a breath and be with that for a minute. I know that like you were kind of laughing, so imagine like part of you is like, oh, that's such a small thing. But that 2 seconds, even if it's 3 hours in between, that's more than you've ever done before.
I'm laughing because like that's all I can tolerate.
Right. But the fact that you can tolerate 2 seconds and that you're willing to give it a try sometimes, that's huge. That's pure courage in my book. And that's how we transform a life. It's when we say, the part of our brain that's so little, that's not enough, it's not going to matter. We say, I hear all that and I'm still going to do the 2 seconds. Because 2 seconds will turn into 4 seconds and maybe 5. And then your life is already on a different track. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And if you can, one thing that struck me is how much your survival brain is like, no, this is not safe. You learned that from somewhere.
Oh, I know. I know where I learned it.
Okay. So if you can, like, sometimes I can use that, like when you're swimming, when you push off the wall, you go further. If I use that person that taught me that as kind of a, like, no, I don't want that, as a wall to push off of, that can give me some courage to keep going.
I could push them off the cliff instead.
I love it. You're more than welcome to metaphorically push people off cliffs. So that's we're not doing real people.
They're already dead anyway, so it wouldn't matter.
Right.
I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah. I love that you shared that. And I really am touched by the courage you brought to this.
Thanks,
I
guys.
hope it helps. Yeah. Nice job, Margot. Go ahead and mute you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mm.
Beautiful.
We were socialized. Every single one of us was socialized into what do we get to do and how do we cope when it's cold, when it's dark, for ourselves personally, and how to do that when that's our we space, the space that we share with the people that are closest to us. If it's cold and dark, and maybe it's like the house is burning down with a lot of emotional energy, and we had to learn how to cope there too. I'm remembering my cat Rug, who was a stray, and one of the things that Rug taught me was when you want to be pet, you come and jump on the desk.
Put yourself
And-
right there.
And it's okay if you're tossed off every once in a while. I wasn't like tossing as in mean, but Rug taught me those things about asking for what you want, and it wasn't something that was inherent in me. And I think that for those of us that do have animals in our past, they've offered me a doorway. For example, when you're riding 1,000-pound animal and they get scared, you learn to either be stupid, I'll use that term, and get scared and upset yourself, or you learn to like let gravity work, drop into the saddle and lower your tone. It's like, it's okay. It's okay. Yep, that's just a frog. I had a horse, Desi, that used to, like, when we went past the pond or something and a frog jumped in, end of the world, it's the dinosaurs are coming to eat us. And my initial rides with him were death defying because I didn't understand about grounding. And somebody said, well, if your German Shepherd is scared, what do you do? Oh, I get really calm. Well, right. And here you're riding this horse and you're getting flustered. That goes right into their nervous system. If you get calm, guess what? If you get understanding, like, Desi took me on adventures I never would have gotten to go on without his strength and capacity. Um, I feel warm inside remembering not only what I had to learn to be in a relationship with him, but also the things that came from my understanding that the way he had been socialized by the male riders was not kind and grounded and other things. And yet he came into my life and I I learned and I grew. Um, so when we think about like doing it together, if you've ever provided comfort to an animal or been comforted by an animal, I think there's a lot of savvy in there. We are animals. We get socialized, we get domesticated for better or worse into certain patterns. And yeah, it's a bigger deal if a puppy grows up and is isolated and doesn't get what he needs or she needs to get used to what it means to be in a good relationship, it takes more energy downstream. But the kind of persistence and courage and presencing, um, I believe a lot of what can come over from those relationships that we've had with our furry friends. Um, I don't have any furry friends in my world in the house, and yet when I feel like done for the day, I was like, that was a lot. There was so much. um, allowing the memories of like Rug jumping up on my belly at those moments, and he would use his paws and give me a massage in my third chakra. We like catapractic, and sometimes a little catapuncture, to go along with it.
So, please stop.
Even now, like I can, I can't feel his body temperature. I miss that, but I can feel the essence of him. And to be able to remember and take that in from those beings and furry friends and spirit buddies that we have had in our lives, to me is an essential access when I need warmth. Um, yeah.
And I also think that just talking about this, it opens our brain up. Like our survival brain is always looking for, is it safe to look at this? And because we're here as a group and our survival brain knows there's other people looking at this and Margot's sharing and the people sharing in the chat, it helps our survival brain relax a little bit and like, oh, well, a lot of people don't talk about this subject. It's almost like, oh, I can't admit that I feel cold or lonely or things feel dark. This kind of opens the door and new ideas can start percolating up. So I encourage you, I try to keep a pen and paper near me afterwards because for the next 24 to 48 hours, our brain is kind of chewing on this and different ideas might pop up depending on what we're exposed to, where we can suddenly have access to new solutions that we didn't have before. Our brain will actually integrate them as opposed to like theoretically. There's a lot of things I theoretically know I could do, but they don't feel very accessible to me. They're not something that comes top of mind when I'm in stress. So as we integrate those things and we practice them, we create a pathway that's smoother for ourselves and we start getting
Yeah.
better at it and we more quickly judge, oh, I think I'm pushing myself too far, or I could gently invite myself to address things a little more right now. We start getting the feel for that. And we start doing that dance much more gracefully. So we don't have to stay in the cold and the dark very long. We can say, oh, I'm noticing I'm feeling ashamed about that. We tapped on that the other day. I can do a little more tapping. I don't have to hold on to this shame about this. I can take care of myself and comfort myself. So the skills, just being here and seeing people talk about it, what do people share, that's opening doorways for your brain. And I think that's such a gift to give yourself as we come to the holiday season where lots of gifts are being exchanged. I think the gift you gave yourself by being with us for the last hour and a half and your willingness to participate and tap along and share, that's a gift that's going to continue giving to you for many, many decades. There'll be a residue of this in your system where you're like, oh, I'm not alone with this. I'm not the only one who struggles with this. I remember that person suggested this. Maybe I'll go watch the Gilmore Girls and light a candle, or maybe I'll reach out to the circle at the center and see what's right for me. So if you can, again, I invited you at the beginning. One of the ways we can most warm ourselves up is by gentle appreciation, whether it's appreciation for ourselves or things around us, for the fact that we lit a candle, for the fact that we reached out, even if that person's, may not be available. When we start adding appreciation, it just kind of warms the flame up a little bit more. It lets us feel a little bit more connected with ourselves and with the universe. So I invite you to use that spice as you go through, like sprinkle some cinnamon and vanilla and some appreciation and gratitude over things. It can really make a difference in terms of how you move through these kinds of experiences.
Mm. Thank you. Thank you, Kathy. Someone offered that this has helped me realize that it's okay to relax once in a while. I have a lot to do to prepare for the end, and even though I decide I want to plan to live. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
And we have a little nook of the internet. I wish there was a thrivingnow.nook. But we call it thrivingnow.center. It's a community center. But it's our nook where those that are drawn to it share and have a place to be witnessed, offer some gifts and questions, the gifts and questions. So please keep that in mind, thrivingnow.center. And if you're not a circle member and you're wanting more of a sense of connection at a size that feels right to you, if us if you like what we've been doing here in the circle, there's interaction. We don't record those circle sessions, and there's an opportunity for you to cultivate connections with yourself, with the emotional world that we share, and with each other in a way that I many of the people on the call and those of you that I'm getting to know, I value presence, courage, realness, and the circle gives me that. And so even on days when there's not a call, there's a resonance, I'll call it, a warm resonance of people that have shared things in their lives with me and with each other. And that matters to me. And it helps me feel connected to this world, this earth we share in a way that, yeah. You're invited, thrivingnow.com/circle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Thank you.
thank you. I feel much warmer being on this call with all of you. Thank you. Appreciate each of you.
Warm tea or whatever your favorite is to each. Bye.